Now, Germany's new parliament held its first session this Tuesday following last month's snap election that came after the previous coalition collapsed. The new Bundestag looks set for a turbulent term after the conservative CDU-CSU stormed to victory under would-be Chancellor Friedrich Merz. He's ruled out working with the second-placed Alternative for Germany, or AfD party, that doubled its seats for the strongest showing of the far right since the Second World War. And also won't work with the resurgent far left, meaning his only chance of forming a government seems to be teaming up with the centre-left Social Democrats. More on this, here's James Facina.
630 MPs arrived for their first session at the Bundestag in Berlin since February's elections. Among them, 208 are from the conservative Christian Democratic and Christian Social Unions, the CDU and CSU. And 152 members are from the far-right AfD, or Alternative for Germany party. Having doubled its seats, the AfD has become the country's second biggest force in parliament, but that force suffered a first setback this Tuesday after it failed to win any top positions. A result of what has become known as the firewall, which sees parties from across the spectrum join forces to keep the AfD at bay.
The AfD has doubled in size and is stronger than ever before. Your tricks, ladies and gentlemen, will not prevent our rise.
But the long-term strength of that firewall will be tested, as 1 in 5 Germans cast their vote in favour of the party 12 years after it was created. AfD are to be given more speaking time and a larger share of state financing. CDU party chief Friedrich Merz has been in talks with the centre-left to form a coalition. He hopes to find an agreement in time for Easter on the 20th of April.
Well, from on this, Jacob Ross joins me on set. He's a research fellow at the German Council on Foreign Relations, where he focuses on the far right and Franco-German relations. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, what are the chances of Merz managing to form a coalition right now? How are the talks going?
Good evening. It looks pretty good, I would say. The CDU's negotiators are advancing in several working groups with the Social Democrats. So Merz's party is in talks with the second big coalition partner. There are non-papers circulating in Berlin already, so some people are leaking several papers from the negotiations to, I guess, exert pressure on the other side. Last week, many media reports said that at several points the negotiations had stalled, but they are going forward, and mainly so since Merz really doesn't have any alternative other than the Social Democratic SPD.
Now, the main headline, as people watch around the world, is this rise of the far right, particularly concerning for some as the largest showing since the Second World War, as we've mentioned. Why has there been this surge of popularity in Germany?
Well, that's the big question to be answered in the next Bundestag, really, as well. And that was the main question asked in German media today by commentators and politicians alike in the new Bundestag, since the last coalition government with 3 parties didn't manage to curb down support for AfD. On the contrary, the party doubled these past 3 years. And if you saw the images from the new German parliament, the Bundestag today, with this very big group on the far right with the AfD, it's very concerning to many people. Now, reasons, I think, that were discussed these past weeks prior to the election were interior security, mainly the concern of many Germans about migration and the impression that further governments have not managed to curb down illegal migration, illegal entry into Germany. Merz has promised to change something prior to the election, and now he needs to push his demands through in this particular point, difficult negotiations with the Social Democrats that are much more reluctant to implement harsher measures on Germany's borders.
Now, until now, there's been this policy of a firewall or a Braudmauer, I think is how it's pronounced, in which all parties refused any dealings with the far right. But it's becoming increasingly difficult, given that they've doubled their seats above 150 now, I believe. Will it hold, this firewall?
Well, At the state level in Germany, in Berlin, yes, I think so. It will hold for the next month and years. But on the local level, we have already seen many breaches really in the Brandmauer, in local parliaments, in communal parliaments, in certain cities. Other parties have voted together with the AfD in certain questions, and not only the Conservatives really, but also the Social Democrats and the Greens at times. But yes, it's a crucial crucial question for German democracy, for German politics going forward. Merz, the very possible or probable next chancellor, has tied his personal career and destiny as the head of the CDU Conservative Party to this very question. But yeah, we will have to see how things turn out. And I mean, certainly 4 years from now, in the next Bundestag election, if the AfD has not diminished but has further gained votes, it will become more and more difficult to keep this Brandmauer or firewall standing.
But looking at it from the other side as well, I mean, they did come out as the second biggest party in a democratic election, and yet we have seen how they are marginalised. We see that Alexander Gauland, the oldest member of parliament, typically he would be the father of the house who launches parliament, and he hasn't had that. And the Speaker of the House, or President of Parliament, Julia Klocke, she was pressured not to introduce herself to the AfD. Is this not playing into the hands of them saying that they're being marginalised to a certain extent?
I think it is. I mean, and that's why many people said that the problems that led to the AfD becoming so strong need to be solved. There's really no other solution. Otherwise, the AfD will further gain seats and it will become more and more difficult to keep them behind the Brandmauer, or even to see a majority rising on the other side of the Brandmauer, which would be the democratic worst-case scenario, really. But yes, as the examples that you pointed to, Julia Klöckner being pressured to not going to the new AfD group, which is the biggest opposition group in this new parliament, not presenting herself, the fact that Alexander Gauland wasn't opening this new session, are all signs of weakness, I think, for the remaining parties, since they have to change rules, they have to ignore certain rules to keep the AfD out of these not necessarily power positions, but symbolic positions. And that's what most commentators also observed in this first session today, that the next Bundestag will become more conflictual with the AfD demanding these rights and being a lot more present also in public discourse.
And not only have they doubled their representation in Parliament, their views have also got more extreme, haven't they? Yeah.
Well, that's the main difference that many people point to when they compare the situation in France, for instance, with the Rassemblement National, that over the years, at least that's the outside impression, has become less radical, that Marine Le Pen did everything to give this sense of de-radicalization of the party, especially in Parliament, with toning down the critique and the discussions, whereas the AfD is specifically because they are behind this firewall, this Brandmauer, has turned more radicalized by the years. If we quickly remember how the party was found in 2013 against the euro crisis, debt crisis policies of Angela Merkel as a party of conservative economics professors, and nowadays includes figures like Björn Höcke, who is seen widely as a right-wing extremist and maybe even a neo-Nazi figure. That's how the AfD has developed, and it's a very different story than the one that we observe in France, for example, with the Rassemblement National.
And we've seen in other European countries where the far right has risen. I'm thinking about Romania, for example. There's been talks of Russian influence in the votes. Is there any hint of that with the German vote?
There has been travels, at least for certain members of parliament. There have been visits to Russia and also to the occupied regions of Ukraine, of eastern Ukraine, where Russian troops are occupying these territories. There have been rumors at times that Russian intelligence is trying to manipulate and penetrate into party ranks and into groups that are surrounding the parliament, since the AfD is the parliamentary arm, so to say, of this right-wing movement in Germany, which is much bigger, however. And I guess that will be another big concern going forward in the new Bundestag, in the parliament, since in some groups parliamentarians need to get security clearances, for instance, since they get access to classified documents. And that's a big question right now, since, I mean, Ukraine is at war with Russia, but many other countries, especially in Eastern Europe, but also Germany, are feeling more and more threatened by Russia and need to keep this circle secure.
Right, thank you very much for that analysis, and we'll continue to follow all the latest from the German election. Thanks for being with us. Time now for a short break here on